can one from Schiff? Where can one find high quality tattoo flashes online, specifically American traditional stuff by the masters? I'm a broke tattoo apprentice, so I can't afford flash art books. Best way. There's a lot of stuff on the Internet Archive. There's a lot of stuff that's been like published and scanned online, but also check local libraries and like online digital libraries, because a lot of stuff, if it's not available locally, you could get it like shipped to you or available in some way. But also as well, like go in and like ask people that you're maybe apprenticing under, like, do you have any interesting books? Can I look at them? But I would also say, and as it's a question that we'll come into more later on, is I think it's like super important for people to have a wide variety of artistic influences. So like look at like go to your local library and like look at other art books, because even if you like bring some like stencil paper or like taking pictures of stuff that you can then draw over on an iPad, because once you have like the fundamentals, then that will make you a more varied artist as well. Like if you're in the way that like all those traditional masters were doing, they were like getting wildlife encyclopedias and like books about like the natural world or architecture or design and drawing over them. So I think if you want to be like the masters, that's a good way to start.
Yeah. So it's really like, so I'd say there are one good thing to do is when you're searching, like just use your image search properly. So set Google to like Google Image to show you or only high resolution pictures. I'd say like, which is in the tools tab on Google Images. I'd say also like Yandex Images turns out for me a better image search, which Yandex is the Russian search engine, language search engine, and it seems to be a bit less bothered about copyright law. So if you search for things on there, again searching for by size and resolution, you'll find more images. I'd say that some really good Instagram pages. Tattoo Scholar in particular is always posting great stuff.
Doc's Weird Years as well.
Doc's Weird Years. I'd say there's also some collections digitized on places like not many places have historic tattoo stuff, but like all the Jesse Knight stuff is going to be digitized eventually on the National Museum of Wales website. Like Smithsonian has some. The Maritime Museum in Mystic Seaport, Connecticut has some digitized. But as you said, yeah, use the sources that those guys were using for their sources, right? And if you look at people like Tattoo Scholar, you'll see how those 19th and early 20th century designs were transformed into tattoo flash. And loads of that stuff is on the Internet Archive at full resolution, and you can download PDFs of design books, or you can download individual like full resolution JP2 files.
Like look up digitized books of like Fleischer and Avery illustrations. Look at like all that like
that stuff's probably less likely to be on the Internet because it's more recent. Like the Victorian stuff, design books of Japonism, of decorative art. Tattoo Scholar on Instagram turned me on the Library of Congress website. They have lots of digitized books of like electrotypes, Google Books as well. Like, yeah, electrotype decals, like Decalcomania, all of those places, and typography books, like all of those kind of design reference books for like late 19th, early 20th century artists are loads and loads of them are available in high resolution.
And also as well, like early advertising stuff as well was completely invaluable to a lot of artists of that era. Like they were like taking like flyers and advertisements and like reworking like particular like figurative art, like, you know, bodies and like poses and like
figurative,
and like old military like military visual materials, like all that stuff is what they were pulling from, because at that time, you know, they didn't have flash books, so they were just like kind of grabbing anything that they could like redraw and rework.
Yeah. If you go to Google Books and type in electrotype, there are loads of cool or electrotype specimens. Loads of fun things come up. So back I've the on the Digital Panopticon, 3.9 million results, 3.9 million convicts in their system have no records of tattoos, and 58,000 do have tattoos. So that those records are a bit it's not perfect. A lot of it, I've found records in there that aren't exact, but that gives you an interesting percentage, quite low percentage of tattoos in that record set, and you can play with it and see different designs, different things by gender, blah blah blah. A really great fun, really great fun thing.
Okay, so last question from the Patreon before we move on to other platforms, and it's a lovely complimentary question towards Matt. So this is from Laura Noel Clark. Super late to this, but in case you haven't recorded yet, I'd love to hear a bit more about Matt's journey to becoming a tattoo historian. Not sure if it's something that's been discussed before, but I'd love to hear more about it. I just did my thesis for my bachelor's in fine art on the relationship of tattoo art and contemporary art, and Matt's essays and thesis were invaluable to me. Big love, guys.
Oh, thank you. It's really nice to hear that. Thank you so much, Lauren. Well, I mean, I basically started in the same place you did, Lauren, right? Like, I had questions about tattoos. Laura. That was your accent there. Sorry, Laura. Yeah, I had questions about tattoos that I had from being around tattoos and being interested in tattoos from very young. I've told the stories often about my family sort of trying to put me off getting tattooed when I was very young. And that sort of fueling my interest, which was really stoked initially by The Undertaker from WWE, WWF at the time, and Guns N' Roses and kind of 1980s like pop culture, plus these bits of my family. But as I got older, as I got more interested, as I had access to university libraries and stuff, I was like looking for information about tattoos and didn't find very much or anything. And what I did find didn't make sense with what I had learned about tattooing just from being interested in it for a while. I was going up to London as a teenager and buying import punk CDs from Tower Records, and in that section of Tower Records, they also had import tattoo magazines. They sold Outlaw Biker Review and Skin and Ink and things like that. So that's basically the beginning of any academic project. You have a question, you keep looking for answers, and it was also the time in academic historiography that we now call the corporeal turn. So there's lots of interest in bodies. And I did a undergraduate degree in languages, but I did a module in my final year about European cinema and wrote a lot about body theory and was like, oh, this would be applicable to tattooing. And I did a master's degree on basically interdisciplinary studies of the body, which was a way of looking at the body from loads of different academic disciplines. And through that, I basically discovered art history as a method set, as a way of thinking about the world. And then my lecturer said, I think you should do a PhD on this in art history. I said, I don't know anything about art, really. She said, you'll figure it out. It was also basically the time when Franco B and Ron Athey were having real moments in the sun. It's sort of Ron's second wave in a way in the early 2000s. And yeah, that became the project. I was also, again, as I talk about in the book, in the acknowledgements to my book, I was also really lucky by accident because I was buying or reading American import tattoo magazines and seeing loads of American tattooing, the work of people like Dan Higgs and Dave Lum and all these amazing American artists, that I wanted to get something that looked like that and not what was happening in England at the time. And that sort of caused me to seek out people that were doing kind of what we, American traditional stuff, which wasn't super visible in like the early 2000s. So I found Martin Clark, who was basically worked with Lau Hardy, was Lau Hardy's apprentice for a long time, and had all the Sailor Jerry books and the Mike McCabe, like New York City tattoo book that had come out in 97. And that was just brilliant. And that turns out by accident, I was in Lau's shop, and Lau then taught me so much about tattoo history and vouched for me when I needed connections with people. And slowly but surely, it was a long time coming, and I didn't thankfully kind of start off thinking that I was this big important academic who deserved to be told the answers. My thesis is basically not historical at all. It's got some history in it, but it's basically theoretical. And then once I had that under my belt and knew the kind of questions to ask, I was able then to start doing more archival work, and that's been the bread and butter. And it's been slow and cautious and hopefully humble. And yeah, I don't know how replicable it is as a if other people want to get into it, but I think the thing is, yeah, just ask as many questions as possible, right? And that's basically what I'm still doing every single day, right?
Yeah.
So thank you.